Hey guys, so first let's address, oh wait, we're supposed to have the pillow in here. Let's address the setting. So my boyfriend and I finally purchased a couch so we can have like a cuter filming location. I don't know, we're settling in. This isn't permanent. So before y'all jump down my throat as far as why I'm even talking about Glass, because clearly it's not a horror movie. I don't even think the whole like franchise is a horror movie. It's clearly more of an action drama. I don't know. But I have never been so requested to talk about a movie, and I was just confused because it's like, it's not a horror movie. It's not even close to being a horror movie. So I don't know why you wanted this review so dang bad, but I'm gonna give it to you because you wanted it. So I did do a whole video on Split, so maybe that's why you want me to continue talking about the trilogy. So why not do a video on Glass as well? It could be defined as a thriller as well, and that's kind of a subgenre of horror, so we're stretching it a bit. I swear, he always knows when I'm filming and where I'm filming because he is a ham and just wants to be on camera every single time. So of course, Glass is the third movie in the trilogy by M. Night Shyamalan, the first being Unbreakable that came out in the year 2000, so this is like 19 years in the making here. And then we had Split, of course, in 2017. Now Glass follows three main characters from Unbreakable and Split. So we have David Dunn and Mr. Glass from Unbreakable, and of course Kevin Wendell Crumb and the Horde from Split. Now the fact that this movie was even like possible and even made is kind of a miracle in the movie entertainment business, because Disney owns the rights for Unbreakable and Universal owns Split, so they agreed to collaborate on this sequel to the two and allow, you know, M. Night Shyamalan to do this final film, because obviously he did the first two, so it was kind of a miracle that they decided to collaborate and work together to create Glass. Another thing that's interesting to me is Mike Jewellakis, I butchered names, I apologize. He was brought on to create the terrifying and dark atmosphere. It doesn't have that. But he was also responsible for none other than the dark and terrifying atmosphere of It Follows. So I'm not sure why his work went down. I mean, okay, before we get anywhere, let me just say I didn't like this movie. I love his work on It Follows, did not translate to be super scary in Glass by any means. So in my opinion, Split was never really like a true sequel to me to Unbreakable. I did see Unbreakable after seeing Split because obviously oh, there's spoilers for Split in this, by the way, in case you haven't seen it yet, but it's been out for a couple years, so I assume we're all up to speed if you clicked on this video. But obviously there is the little Easter egg at the end of Split that connects it to Unbreakable and makes you realize that it's all taking place within the same universe. So then I went and saw Unbreakable because I had never seen it before. Now Kevin Wendell Crumb's character and the Horde and everything like that was actually intended for a character in Unbreakable, but M. Night Shyamalan didn't have enough time in the movie to create this character and create a backstory and everything like that. So that's why he decided to make Split. So this movie also kind of takes a little bit of a mental illness route. That's the whole reason why I did a video on Split, because I also didn't see it as much of a horror as it was like a thriller suspense kind of action movie. And obviously he has dissociative identity disorder in Split that causes him to have 24 different personalities. And I did a whole video on whether or not that was offensive, at least to me. Obviously I don't have DID, so I'm not going to speak for the whole community, but you know, is it exploiting mental illness for the sake of a film? That's kind of what my whole first video on it was about, and I did have to mention obviously there is a continuation of the mental illness route in this movie. So Sarah Paulson plays the therapist known as Ellie Staple, and she specializes in people with ideas of grandeur who believe that they are literally superheroes, and basically she tries to convince them that they are not superheroes and explain all of their behavior and powers in a rational, logical way. There is a few moments in the film too where you start questioning, like, are they actually powerful, like as powerful as superheroes? Are they normal people that, you know, just have these bouts of adrenaline? Like, is it just mental illness? And if you're wondering, no, this movie to me is not offensive in any way. It does not, you know, exploit mental illnesses by any means. It just is brought up as an idea because they think that they're superheroes, and obviously that is a weird idea to have in this day and age. So before we get into spoilers, because obviously I cannot really delve into why I didn't really like this film without talking about the spoilers, because I really didn't like it just for the second half of the movie. Overall, I thought it was pretty anticlimactic anticlimactic and disappointing of a movie. The trailer makes it seem like much more exciting than it actually is in the movie, because obviously if you like Unbreakable and Split, I recommend seeing it because it's cool to see all three characters in the same room together and kind of working together, being enemies, things like that. You know, their dynamic together as a trio is really interesting, especially if you like the first two. The movie as a whole felt a little bit forced, and I think there's a couple different reasons to this. He did announce the release date, like I think as Split came out, like the day it came out, he announced the sequel, or the sequel to Split, the end of the trilogy, to come out on this day that Glass came out. So I felt like he forced it to be ready by that date, if that makes sense. And then another theory I have, I will save for the spoiler time, which I'll let you know when we're gonna get into that. M. Night did say that he is not going to do another one, but he would be open to changing his mind. Like, he could change his mind anytime down the road if he so pleases. So it'd be really weird, and I don't think he should go the franchise route, because I think as a trilogy, it's completed, it is a whole trilogy, and anything beyond that is just gonna feel really forced and really weird. But I'll get into some more specific reasons why this is a bad idea right now. So if you have not seen Glass yet and you don't want it to be spoiled or the twist to be revealed to you, then tune out now. So I don't really know where to start with what went wrong with this movie, at least for me. Granted, remember, this is all my opinion and my interpretation of the film. Obviously there are people who are gonna love this movie. There are already people who told me that they do, so I don't want you to be offended because I didn't like it. I'm just gonna tell you why I didn't like it, and you can tell me why you did or agree with me in the comments. So there is a plot point where there is just so much, I don't even know where to start. So there's gonna be an Osaka building in Philadelphia, and Mr. Glass decides that that is where he wants to broadcast that superheroes are real, right? He wants David Dunn to fight the Beast from one of Kevin's Horde members. And he wants to do it at this tower because it's this grand opening, so there's gonna be tons of people there, and he just wants as many eyes on this fight as possible to prove that superheroes are real. So it creates this whole narrative that you think is gonna go down, but then as the movie continues, it never gets there. Like, we never make it to the tower, and I think this has to do with the budgeting. I don't think that they had the budget to make it to a tower and like film a whole scene there, so the whole thing, the whole climax, the big fight and everything happens in the parking lot of the mental institution. Now, M. Night Shyamalan actually financed this entire film himself for $20 million, which is a lot of money. He had to mortgage his house in order to do it. So mad respect to M. Night for doing that, because he really, really wanted to finish this trilogy and make this sequel. But I think it was purely they just didn't have the budget to make the final fight scene on a tower or at a tower with lots of people, so they just made it into this parking lot. Now, of course, like I said, there are some twists and turns, because like any M. Night Shyamalan film, there's going to be twists involved. We actually get 3 major twists in this, and I think 2 of them are kind of glossed over real quick, and 1 is like kind of highlighted, and it's like the worst one. I think it was 1 too many twists, first of all, because they were all pretty weak individually, so maybe he felt like he needed to have multiple twists to make it an entertaining ending and make us like more engaged. I don't know. So the first twist that is revealed to us is that Kevin's dad was actually on the train that crashed that created David Dunn as a superhero from Unbreakable, if we've all seen that movie. Therefore, Mr. Glass was obviously responsible for that train crashing because he wanted to create David Dunn as a superhero, but in turn that also created Kevin's superhero powers of the Beast, because he created these personalities as a way to cope with the trauma in his life of his dad passing and the abuse from his mother. So it's like, great, use trauma to make a child develop DID. Well, actually he already had symptoms before the train crashing, but his dad was the one that was going to help him through this mental illness. And then Mr. Glass is like, nope, I need him to have this mental illness. I need him to become my superhero and my partner in crime, my sidekick. So he needs to die. The second twist that is revealed to us, we definitely didn't have time for. Like, they introduced it maybe within the last 10 minutes of the movie and gave us no answers as to the origin or why or who, like, it was about a secret organization that is there purely to silence superheroes slash kill superheroes and make sure that the world does not become aware to their existence. And we learned that Sarah Paulson is actually a part of this and that she has a clover tattoo on her wrist, as does all these members. I think that this created just way more questions than it did like a big aha moment for people. Like, why are they meeting in a restaurant as their meeting place and then they just wait for the normal patrons to leave? Now, this organization, I believe, is mentioned slightly in Unbreakable. So when Elijah, or Mr. Glass, discovers that water is David Dunn's kryptonite, he discovers this by reading a comic book about an organization that is trying to silence superheroes. So maybe it's the same organization. It was a comic book in Unbreakable. He knew this all along and knew this throughout the whole movie, and that's why his general plan wasn't really to make it to the tower. It was really to broadcast the fight between David Dunn and the Beast in order to prove and show the world that they exist, which is the third and final twist. The final fight was honestly just sad to me. Like, this is the part that was very anticlimactic for me, because obviously they never made it to the tower, so then you're left realizing, oh, so the climax is just in this parking lot. All three superheroes and villains die. And the way that they die is kind of boring and very anticlimactic. The fact that David Dunn is just drowned in a puddle that's not even that deep is sad. Obviously water is his kryptonite, so like he's weaker when he's in water, but he really couldn't have like pulled himself out of the water, like pushed the cop off. I don't even know. And also the cop drowning him, no one else saw that. Like, it's just in the middle of everything going on and a cop is drowning David Dunn and no one's saying anything. It makes me think that like maybe all the cops were involved and like all of them wanted to kill these three, or like knew that's how it was all going to end. Obviously, because all three died, this is mostly why I don't see a franchise happening or a fourth film happening, because it just wouldn't make sense. Another thing that I had a major issue with is the character of Casey from Split. She is the lone survivor of Kevin Wendell Crumb's character and the Horde. She becomes so sympathetic and connected to Kevin, and I get that she's connected with Kevin the person, but not the Horde. But she is so sympathetic towards him, but it's like, girl, he tried to kill you, he killed your friends, do you not have any trauma from that? Or maybe she thinks that they're kind of similar or the same because he also has a lot of trauma in his past, so it just didn't feel that realistic for me. But he needed to have someone to be there because the trio at the end of Mr. Glass's mom, and then we have David Dunn's son Joseph, who is the same actor actually from the movie Unbreakable, and then we have Casey to represent for Kevin. So the ending is really disappointing, because then we have the three family and friends. They are emailed this footage. It's just kind of lame. It's like Mr. Glass was like, hey, check this out, and then emailed out all this footage to them to leak on the internet. And it is so unrealistic what happens after they leak it. They are at, I think, the tower, because there's so many people around, and they're just like waiting for people's reactions to this superhero video. But two things with that. One, first of all, no one's gonna believe that it's even real. Like, do we really believe every video that we see on the internet is real? Second of all, people don't just react when they're by themselves in public to a weird video that they're watching on their phone. They're not like, oh my god, who does that in person, like in real life? We might look around like, oh, that's wild, man, and then we send it to our friends on our phone. We don't talk to the strangers next to us to show them. So that was kind of annoying as well. I thought the whole ending, the whole like last 15 minutes, I feel like was just annoying to me. So there you have my thoughts on Glass. I did not enjoy it as a movie. Obviously not a horror. I knew going into it wasn't a horror, but everyone wanted me to talk about it, so here we are. Maybe I could do movie reviews for like different movies as well if you want. Although horror is my genre, so I definitely have a better perspective when it comes to the horror genre versus like action movies. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you have seen the movie, if you liked it or didn't like it, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, leave it all in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon.